Okay, and so we've done the more unusual successes you've had betting. Back to the more stuff most people will relate to, the Grand National you've had success in, but not necessarily a race you think of as professional punters,
No,
getting involved with.
I think it's a very different race now to what it used to be, but I've always done quite well. Last few years, not so. I think it's probably one of my first memories of really having a win on the betting. I think I was probably 17 at the time, and a friend of mine went and put a bet on for me. I think it was Last Suspect, 50 to 1. I was 17, had a fiver each way, which was probably my month's pocket money at 50 to 1, and it won. And that was sort of the beginnings of everything, I suppose. And over the years, I've always had fun betting on the Grand National. But again, it's one of those races where people say, "Oh, that won't happen. That's never happened." That people put rules and regulations into their betting, say it's never happened. Doesn't mean it won't happen. Like Mon Mome, everybody said no French-bred horse has ever won the Grand National. Well, one day it will happen, and it did. I didn't back Mon Mome, but I backed Pinot de Ray a couple of years later. And then it's following other things. Like the other one was Rule the World, another 50 to 1 winner. Never won a chase. Everybody said, "Oh, a horse can't win the Grand National that's never won a chase." But just because it hasn't doesn't mean it won't. And you have to build that into your prices. I mean, Rule the World on a lot of other things. It had been placed in Irish National. It had done a lot, ticked a lot of other boxes that people look for. But just because it hadn't won a chase before didn't mean it couldn't win a national. So it's just trying to think outside the box.
Is it? I mean, these days, you say it's not the race it was.
I
So those sort of opportunities have gone forever.
I think they are for me personally. I still have a go at it, but I've not been very successful since Rule the World, to be honest, which was what 6 years ago. Um, no, it's lowering of the fences, making it a faster race. I don't quite get the reduction of the field this year. You've got different horses running in it now, higher quality, younger horses. For me, probably it might have gone as a betting medium, which is a shame, but you move on.
Now you said you're concentrating now on the French racing. Are you still scouring the more obscure markets for something that might jump out at you, or do you put more work into it than that, or have you forgot? What is it at the moment?
I still try and concentrate as much on the horse racing and the French horse racing. I still dabble on British and Irish racing, but again, I concentrate on horses that run well on certain courses. I mean, the thing in France is sort of heightened that sort of look. I mean, there was one running yesterday at Listowel, William Mullen's horse, can't remember the name of it now, had won that race the last twice, had won the last four at Listowel, had run badly over here at Sandown and Aintree, but I think William Mullins has sent it over to basically try and win the Trainers' Championship. Didn't run very well at all, took it back to Listowel, it went off at I think 5 to 2. You could get 3 to 1 Betfair, but for a horse of that calibre, it was because it specialised at that course. It loved it there, and it did yesterday.
Okay, so you're obviously not. That one's a more realistic price, but you're not afraid to take the big prices as we've
No,
found
no,
out
no,
the other
no.
stuff. I mean, if you are looking at those sort of bets, obviously you're going to have quite a lot of losers. I assume there's quite a few losers in amongst what we've talked about.
Yep, there are. French racing at the moment, I'll admit the last 3 months has been very, very difficult. I think I worked it out the other day. I put out some like 66 bets. More or less broken even, small loss, I think, which is inevitable. But I think in those bets, I think I've had 16 second places. And it tears your hair out sometimes, but you know you're doing it something right. They're getting there or thereabouts. Don't always cross the line in front. But I'm beating the SP about 70% of the time in France. I'm a great believer if you can beat the SP and continue to beat the SP, eventually you'll end up in front. But you will have losing runs.
But you have got people paying for your tips.
Yes.
So they must be a special type of clientele to weather the storm, because it's right for you weathering the storm.
Yeah.
But they're also pulling up the fee, and they're losing their money.
Yeah.
So I mean, does that sort of make it a lot harder for you to think in a professional manner?
It is difficult. It makes it, it puts a lot of pressure on you because you've got other people relying on you. I'd say a lot of the clients, I haven't got a massive client base, it's quite small because I want to keep it small to protect the prices. I'd say quite a few of the guys who bet with me I've known for quite a long time. Some of them 20 years, and they followed me throughout what I've chopped and changed and done, and they're quite happy. I'm never going to make them rich, but for an hour's work a week, I can book them a nice holiday every year, and that's the gist of it, basically. I'm not going to make them thousands and thousands of pounds every week. It doesn't happen.
But do you get sort of, how does it feel when you get negative feedback, assuming you've had some in the past?
Yes, you do get negative feedback, but I've been quite lucky over the 24 years that I've done it, because I've always sold tips in different shapes and forms over the years, had people who followed me, and I've had pretty negative, pretty small amount of negative response. You get one or two, but I'm always pretty honest and open, people. Don't try and pull the wool over people's eyes, be straightforward. Don't massage your figures, don't lie, don't pretend that prices are out there that are not. I mean, when the prices go up on the French stuff in the morning, I'll wait till virtually every single bookmaker is priced up. Luckily, they all pretty much copy each other, so you don't have to sort of, but there's always maybe one or two standout prices, but I don't use them for proofing or anything. I take the general basic price that everybody can get. They don't hang around a lot, but they are there.
Okay, so, well, the other thing, there's a lot of people, into this as well. It's one of the biggest betting sports, golf. But you consider it dead in the water now. Why is that?
For me, yeah. That was my mainstay for years. That's what I used to bet on. Back in the day, I'm going back 20 years now, all the bookmakers who priced up more or less independently. Odds Checker was in its infancy. Each bookmaker would probably have an odds compiler. Now there are probably, 3 or 4 in the whole world, I would say. So everybody copies. So you don't get the Rick. So maybe I was just betting on winning on the Ricks. You get somebody go up on a Monday morning at 20 to 1, another bookmaker could be 100 to 1, the same golfer. And that existed. Nowadays, you'd be lucky to get somebody at 50s and somebody at 66. It happens, but you won't get on very quickly. I've got to wait because bookmakers won't allow me to bet very much on a Monday, or anybody, to be honest. So Bet365 probably go up first. There's a few people will copy, but they will increase the amount you can bet by Wednesday when the market has settled down. Early doors, they have strict limits on what you can and can't bet on how much. And I think, that change in, also you've got hundreds of tipsters on Twitter now, all doing it for free, wanting to go up as quickly as somebody else can, because they're desperate to get up first to get that price out. Then the price just collapses quite quickly.
I mean, how frustrating is that when you've got, there obviously must be good judges to make a difference to you, sticking it up.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why I've more or less given up on it. I might wait till a Wednesday afternoon on Betfair and see what's drifted in price and have a dabble. I still bet on the first round leader markets. I think there's still a margin for making a profit on that, because it's like a condensed, so outright prices go up, then the market is condensed for the first round leader, so the favourites will be pushed out in price and the longer shots will be pushed in price, but they don't necessarily look at what a golfer has done in the first round at that particular venue in the past, or what he's done recently. So I think there's still maybe a margin to make profit that side of it.
I mean, there are a lot of markets.
Yes.
In the golf.
Yep.
And I was told in a recent interview that a lot of it's done by algorithms.
Oh yeah.
So there is potential for you to know more than, obviously you assume there'd be
there
less.
is, yeah. But it's a lot of the stuff that I used to find, would be looking for amateur form around courses, little sort of nuggets of information, caddy changes, that sort of thing. It didn't used to be in the general domain. It is now, and people find that information and plaster it all over Twitter or whatever, and the edge is gone for me.
Yeah. So I was interested to think that Odds Checker ruined odds compiling. Wouldn't that be Betfair?
No. Well, possibly. I think it's easier now for other companies just to copy. If you sit there and watch odds check on a horse market, say, and you watch the figures go from blue to red by the second, and they're all copying each other, and they probably wouldn't have laid a bet. So it seems a very odd way of doing bookmaking to me. I think the only one that doesn't tend to change greatly is Bet365. Don't change. Anybody who's got a Bet365 account, they're very, very lucky. I don't. But they don't tend to change their prices a great deal. Whereas if you're looking at all the other bookmakers, they seem to be, in my mind, copying each other, even though they've probably never taken a bet. And I can put some French stuff. When I did it originally on Twitter, I could put a horse up at 20 to 1, and I've seen it within 10 minutes crash to odds on. Bet365 would still be 20 to 1, and the others are 2 to 1 on, and it just makes a mockery of what they're doing to me.
But you still price up golf tournaments privately?
Not really. I never really totally priced it. I would look at golfers that I liked, i.e. on current form, course form, etc. And look at what the prices are at the moment, what they have been in recent weeks, and I'd give a rough guide as to what I thought a price would be. And then if they were bigger, then I'd go in. But pricing up 148 golfers, unless you're using computer systems and doing it every week, then no.
Right, so you'd be looking at the front of the market or not the front, but the more...
No, I'd just be looking at what I wanted to find and the golfers I wanted to back. But it's more a question of my own judgment, thinking what's a good price. Whereas with the horse racing, I'll price it exactly. So, well, when you've only got 8 runners or 10 runners, it's a much easier job.
Okay, so I've met you several times at Points of Points and places like Newton Abbot.
Yep.
I mean, does horse racing still play a part in your getting a few quid punting personally?
It does, yes. But I don't tend to put it up on... I'll share some of the stuff occasionally with some of the subscribers. I'll occasionally put some stuff up on Twitter. But most of it is me just betting on Betfair, not with bookmakers. But it's not a huge part, but I still do it.
But how much time would you devote a day to that?
Probably an hour or two a day. I mean, years ago I used to spend watching the thing. One of the reasons I stopped doing the golf as well so much is the time. I would sit here 60, 70, 80 hours a week watching leaderboards and things like that, and you just think there's got to be a better thing to do in life.